Guys, Elite Gamer here, your everyday scrubadin. This is how to Ret PvP for patch 7.0.3. So, a lot of things have changed with Ret Paladins in this patch, and we're going to go over as much as we can and hopefully get everyone caught up to speed as to what's going on with Ret. So, first things first, let's go over abilities. You still have your wings cooldown, you still have your bubble, you still have freedom, all that, you know. You still have judgment, although it works differently now. You still have Crusader Strike. One of the biggest new abilities that you have for attacks is Blade of Wrath. It has a 12-yard range and a 6.5 second cooldown. And you strike an enemy with Blade of Wrath, it deals 10k holy damage and an additional 12k holy damage over 5 seconds. This actually generates 2 holy power. So, if we head over to a training dummy here, I'll show you what it looks like. That's Blade of Wrath. So, kind of an interesting animation. And Crusader Strike actually has charges now, so you have 2 charges. So, holy power generation is a lot quicker. Now, as far as Judgment goes, Judgment has been changed to a 10-second cooldown, and what it does is that it judges your enemy target, deals a large amount of holy damage, and causes them to take 33% increased damage from your holy power spenders for 8 seconds. Now what exactly does that mean? Well, whenever you use Templar's Verdict or something like Justicar's Vengeance, which we'll get to in a second, it will do about 40% increased damage if you do it while you have the Judgment buff on the target. So basically, the idea now, rather than judging at the start of your rotation, you want to go in, use Blade of Wrath. Okay, so basically you want to get the 5 holy power, and then press Judgment, and then you want to spam Templar's Verdict, and you'll notice that it does about 40% more damage. I'm critting for huge numbers. So what else is different? Well, they've actually changed, they've added a few extra abilities here. First of all, Blade of Wrath isn't the original name of that ability. If we go into the Talons, the original name of the ability is actually Blade of Justice. It's the 9-second cooldown, and it does a little bit more damage and generates 2 holy power. However, it's got a longer cooldown. It's 9 seconds. Whereas Blade of Wrath cuts the cooldown down. Now my reasoning for choosing this is because you generate more holy power faster, which means more Templar's Verdicts, more damage output, whatever. So that's why I have Blade of Wrath. Other new abilities that we have are Divine Steed. Actually, I believe this is a talent, but we'll look at that after. You can mount up in combat, run around for 3 seconds, and that gives you 100% run speed. Another new ability that I actually haven't seen a lot of people talking about, but it's a big deal for PvP. It is Shield of Vengeance. Basically, it's on a 2-minute cooldown, so it's kind of long, but it creates a barrier of holy light around you. It absorbs 55,620 damage for 15 seconds. So it lasts quite a while. But the big deal is that when the barrier is consumed, all the damage that it absorbed is dealt back at the attacker or anyone around you within 8 yards as holy damage. So, in a duel, for example, if someone were to try to burst you and use this, A, that's a 55k absorb, but B, that gets deflected back at the person you hit it, right? So, we have Shield of Vengeance, we have Divine Steed, and we have our new Blade of Wrath. So, not a lot has changed, damage dealing ability wise, but that's pretty much it. Now, buffing has changed a ton for Ret Paladins in Legion here. Rather than having the option of Might or Kings, and we can put it on everyone in the raid, you're given 3 options now. Blessing of Might, that has been retooled. Basically, it gives the player who has it a 10% chance to deal 30% additional damage as holy damage. The second one is Greater Blessing of Kings. This one is basically meant for tanks, or I guess whichever player is taking damage for PvP. It's basically just an absorb shield every 6 seconds. Think of it as Sacred Shield, which by the way they removed. so no more constant absorbs. And the last one is Greater Blessing of Wisdom. This is essential for your healers. It's basically just MP5. They regenerate 1% of their mana every 15 seconds. Not a big deal, but for a long period of time, they're going to save a lot from that, so throw it on your healer and it'll help them out. Next part of the changes will be talents. This is a huge one. First of all, Final Verdict has been moved to your level 15 tier. Basically, it increases damage done in Templar's Work by 20% and damage done in Divine Storm by 10%. You don't get the extended reach on it though, so keep in mind of that. Execution Sentence has actually been taken away from us and it's been turned into a talent. It does the same thing, but one thing to keep in mind with this is that it's not on a 1 minute cooldown, it's on about a 17-second cooldown. Changes based on your haste. And it does 70,000 damage, is a little bit higher, but you can't use it to heal with anymore. So just remember that, it's damage only. And we have Consecration. Every pally knows what that is, so, AoE. Your level 30 tier talents are Fires of Justice. First one reduces cooldown Crusader Strike by 1 second, and it gives it a 15% chance to reduce the cost of your next damaging or healing holy power ability by 1. So basically, you can have a Templar's Verdict or Word of Glory that costs 2 holy power instead of 3. Zeal, I've looked at it, but I haven't tested it a lot yet. Essentially, it's a cleave damage ability. It replaces Crusader Strike, so you'll spam Zeal instead of Crusader Strike. And the more you spam it, the more you get a buff that stacks on you, stacks 3 times. And it basically does splash damage. Now in an arena, that's probably not the best thing, because it'll start busting CC. So, probably not the best choice. And your third option is Greater Judgment. So basically your Judgment ability hits 2 additional people, and if anyone's above 50% health, it'll always deal critical strike. Again, splash damage, probably not the greatest thing, but the extra critical strike on anything above half health is kinda nice. So, you decide. The next one is a big one. We have Fist of Justice, Repentance, and Blinding Light. Now again, Fist of Justice is another ability that's been retooled. So listen up, I know I'm boring, but just deal with it. Basically your damage dealing abilities that spend holy power reduce the remaining cooldown on Hammer of Justice by 8 seconds. So it still has a 45-second cooldown, and you don't get the extended reach like old Fist of Justice offered. However, every time you spam a Word of Glory, a Templar's Verdict, Divine Storm, you're going to shorten the cooldown by 8 seconds on it. Repentance is exactly the same, so no one gives a shit. And Blinding Light, again, same thing, 1.5 minute cooldown, AoE. Oh, I did forget to mention, Blinding Light and Repentance do a small amount of damage to the target, but it's nothing really to write home about, so they're basically the same besides that. Level 60, here's where it gets interesting. Here's our new ability that we got. Virtue's Blade is the first talent. Blade of Justice, critical strikes, now deal 3 times normal damage. Now, this sounds good, because 3 times a critical strike already does 200% of the original damage of the ability. And then multiply that by 3 times, so it'll deal 600% of the original damage, which is huge. Blade of Wrath is your next choice. It essentially, it replaces Blade of Justice, does basically the same thing, except it does far less damage, but it also does a little bit of damage over time. The reason why I like it is because it has a shorter cooldown, so you can use it more often, which means more holy power. You get the idea. Moving on. Divine Hammer is another AoE that Ret was given. This is probably only good in a PvE setting, but you might be able to argue it in a PvP setting. It just Divine Hammers that spin around you, damaging enemies within 8 yards for 4k holy damage, instantly and every 1.7 seconds for 10.4 seconds. And again, it replaces your Blade of Justice or Blade of Wrath, generates 2 holy power, but it's got a longer cooldown, so screw it. 75 talents. First up is Justicar's Vengeance. This one's another new ability, and it's kind of interesting. It's a self-heal. It costs 5 holy power, not 3, and it's a weapon strike that deals 50,000 damage. Now, let's just put that into perspective here for a second. 5 holy power for 50,000 damage. If we look at our Templar's Verdict here, it takes 3 holy power, and it does 43,000 damage. So initially, this ability sucks ass. No one would pick it, right? Well, if we read the second part of it, it deals 100% additional damage and healing when used against a stunned target. So basically, this is going to be your follow-up ability after you CC a target with your Hammer of Justice, and it's going to act as a self-heal. So 100% increased damage will make it do about 100,000 damage, or I'm at right now, level 110, and that's going to do 100,000 healing, but it costs 5 holy power. Eye for an Eye is actually another new ability. This one's really cool, but it's only good against melee. It's a 1 minute cooldown, which is fairly good. And it reduces all physical damage you take by 35%, which is huge, and it instantly counterattacks any enemy that strikes you in melee combat for 16k physical damage. It lasts 10 seconds. So, this is kind of like the old from Wrath of the Lich King, what was it called? The Prot Warriors had the Spike Shield ability that used to fuck rogues, and basically anytime someone damages you with a melee hit, you just damage them back. And it reduces the damage you take. And it's only on a 1 minute cooldown, right? So, if you're fighting cleave, comms, pick Eye for an Eye. And the third option, which I've selected right now, but may actually not be that great, is Word of Glory. Yes, we've lost Word of Glory. It sucks, it's a talent. Basically, it's exactly the same. 3 holy power heals you for 50,000 damage. But this time, you can have 2 charges of it, and it has a 1 minute recharge time. On top of that, it does actually heal 5 friendly targets within 15 yards for the same amount. So, in an arena, I guess it's a good raid heal, or group heal. I haven't had a whole lot of time testing it since we only have skirmishes, so it might be the best choice, depending on what you're fighting. Maybe Eye for an Eye. I hate Justicar's Vengeance and shit, so, that's that. Okay, level 90. First up, Divine Intervention. That's right, boys, DI is back. Except it doesn't do what it used to do, and it's kind of meh. So, as you can see, it reduces the cooldown of Divine Shield by 50%, and in addition, any attack which would kill you instead reduces you to 20% of your maximum health and triggers Divine Shield. This is good for people who really like to push their bubble to the last second and end up dying in arena because bubble's on GCD, which, fits me. But at the same time, you don't get the 8-second immunity. It just puts it on cooldown for 2.5 minutes, and you go back up to 20% health. Which isn't good, because that still keeps you within execute range. So, warriors, hunters, things like that are still going to shit on you. Divine Steed is your second choice. This is another new ability. It's good and bad. There's a 45-second cooldown, summons a holy mount, you can ride for 3 seconds, increases movement speed by 100%, you can use it indoors and in combat. Now initially, this sounds like an incredible gap opener or closer. 100% movement speed for 3 seconds, that's all you need, and on a 45-second cooldown. However, we have lost double freedom, right? We have also lost Emancipate. Roots and snares are actually a pain in the ass again as a Ret Paladin, and with 1 freedom, if a mage spell steals it, you're in slow motion the rest of the fight. So, finding opportunities to get the full speed out of Divine Steed is tricky, but sometimes you can use it, depending on what you're fighting. And Seal of Light is another mobility buff. Basically, it's a holy power dump, 1 to 5 holy power. Draws upon your holy energy to increase your movement speed by 20% for 20 seconds per holy power spent. So if you spend 5 holy power, you get a 100% movement increase for 20 seconds, which immediately sounds much better in Divine Steed, except it costs 5 holy power, so that's less damage and healing. So pick your poison, Ret Paladins. And last but not least, for now anyways, level 100 talents. First up, Divine Purpose. You all know what that does, except they gave it the nerf bat just a little bit. Rather than having a 25% chance like it used to, it's down to 20%. So have fun with that. Crusade is something new, and it's kind of interesting. It replaces Avenging Wrath, which, by the way, increases your damage done by 50% now, instead of 20 or 30 I think it was before this patch. So Wings has been buffed to compensate all the shit that's been taken from us. But Crusade is basically a build up over time of haste and damage. It replaces Avenging Wrath, 2-minute cooldown, same cooldown, lasts 20 seconds, that's all the same. But increase your damage and haste by 3.5%. Each holy power spent during Crusade increases damage and haste by an additional 3.5%. It stacks at a limit of 15. So, depending on how fast you can dump holy power, depends on how strong Crusade can be. I haven't really tested it all that much yet. It could be better than Avenging Wrath, but we'll see. And last but not least is Holy Wrath. It's on a 3-minute cooldown, so this is a big one. Basically, it deals holy damage up to 4 enemies within 10 yards, equal to 200% of your missing health. In PvP, it deals 50% of missing health against enemy players. So let's say I've got 400k health and I'm down to my last 25%. I'm at about 100. You're missing 300k, it'll deal half of that. So it'll be a 150k hit, which is pretty nice, but at the same time, it's a 3-minute cooldown. The only time where I can see this as a good talent choice is if you and your opponent are whittling each other down. You're both about to die, and you're sitting on your last drop of health, and you use this as a finisher. So that's just about it. That's all the changes to the talents, and that's all the changes to the abilities for Ret Paladins in patch 7.0.3, Legion Prepatch. Good luck to all you Ret Paladins out there. I don't know what you guys think of this patch, if you like Rets or not. I can't say I'm fond of it, but I'm just gonna ride it out to 110 and see if it gets better. If you guys like this video, in a future video we could probably talk about all the different PvP talents and prestiging, you know, how these things are going to help us kick more ass and maybe balance us a bit better. One thing I actually did forget to mention, we lost, you know, Hammer of Wrath, so shit, but it is in our PvP talents, so yay. Anyways, if you like this, leave a comment. If I forgot something, which I probably did, again, just let me know in the bottom, and I'll get back to you on it. Maybe I can find a way to add it in here. And hopefully this is helpful for some people. And if not, then give me a thumbs down, you know? Call it as it is. Anyways.